Hey guys, welcome back to the Faith and Finance Show. This is gonna be episode 3. I appreciate the support on the first 2 videos. Shout out to the guy that liked my first video. I appreciate that. I like to think that was a genuine like, and you just enjoyed the content, and you found something useful. So, today I was at work and I was just kind of thinking, how come the rich get richer, right? You know that saying, the rich get richer. And, I think there's different layers to that. And I just want to give y'all my take on it and sort of just walk through it and how that, just how that saying works, how it's true, and also kind of how it's false or maybe misrepresented. So, that saying, the rich get richer, it kind of also falls in line with the saying, it takes money to make money. And in some ways that's true, right? I don't know if people really have looked into, how that makes sense or why that makes sense or why that's true. I think maybe people just, maybe that comes along with less of an idea of how wealthy people make more money, and more just the idea that people that are wealthy are like greedy, or they, have ways that they take money from other people, or, which I'm sure that's true. Some wealthy people, are thieves in a sense. They lie about what they sell, or give fake promises, or sell, whatever it is, or, fraud, stuff like that. But, I'm talking about the cases where, there's wealthy people that are wealthy not through dark avenues, not through taking advantage of people or the system and cheating. And so, going along with the whole, the rich get richer. Yeah, I mean, there's validity to using your money to invest and compound interest, and the idea that, if you invest your money in the S&P 500 and it goes up 8% this year, well, if you're rich, whatever that means to you, if you've got $5 million to put into the S&P 500, and you make 5%, 10%, that's significantly more money than if you have $50 invested, right? And obviously most people are somewhere in between if you are investing. It makes logical sense that wealthy people acquire more actual dollars, but it's really just a percentage game, if that makes sense. So making 10% off of $1 million is what, $100,000, right? Well, you can make 10%, over the course of a year. You can make 10% off of your money too. You're getting the same percentage that they are. They don't really have any percentage advantage to you, right? You both invest in the S&P 500, but you invest $100 and they invest $1 million, right? Well, they made $100,000 that year and you made $10. And you look at that and you say, wow, the rich get richer. Well, you both got the same treatment. You both got the same benefit, The person, regardless of how much money you put in, you made 10%, right? So, point being that it's a percentage game when it comes to investing in and stuff like that. And that's why, if you read books or listen to podcasts about long-term investing and investing in index funds and stuff like that, how, the real benefit of investing in index funds and investing for the long term, well, the benefit really comes in the later stages of that. And that's because it's a compound interest game, So if all you can do is afford to put in, less than $1,000 a month, right? Which I feel like most people aren't really going to be putting in more than $1,000 a month into their investment fund, right? And let's say it's all going into the S&P 500, right? If you're just doing a couple $100 a month, it's going to take a long time for the amount of money that you make off of that money to be something, I guess I would say usable, or a significant amount. So what I'm saying is, a lot of money is different for all of us, right? So if you think $100,000 is a lot of money, or would be a good livable wage for you, well then how much money would you need to have invested where 10% would make you $100,000 for that year? Well, that would be $1 million, right? 10% of $1 million is $100,000. Well, now the question is, how long is it going to take you to get in $1 million investment account, right? Well, for most people, that's a long time. But let's say it takes you 40 years to build a $1 million investment account, just investing in the S&P 500. And then after that 40 years, you can retire and live off of your 100K a year. And now it's a little more complex than that, but I'm simplifying it for the sake of just the discussion. Well, if you're someone that makes $250,000 a year and you can put $3,000 in, you can put $3,000 a month in your investment account, well, you're going to hit that $1 million way sooner. But what's the likelihood that someone that makes $250,000 a year, they live off the same means that someone making $100,000 a year makes? Well, they don't. The person making $250,000 a year most times is going to be living a different lifestyle, a more expensive lifestyle than the person making $100,000. So what they need to retire at the end is going to be a different number, right? So the point being is, we all have different lenses that we look through for what is a lot of money, right? There is no answer for what a lot of money is, and there's really not an answer for what a good retirement number is for all of us, because we all have different things that we want, different qualities of life that we want, and so, whenever the saying of like the rich get richer, it's true, but they just have a lot more capital to make a significant amount of money off of, right? They're making the same percentages that you are or I am. It just so happens that they have more capital that they're making that, percentage gain off of. And now, how they got there is a whole nother thing of, how do you increase your income so you can invest more? That's a whole nother conversation, but, that whole rich get richer thing, yeah, it is true with investing because, yeah, if you have more money to invest, if you're investing $1 million a year, well, even if your return rate is the same, you're returning the same percentages as people that are investing less, the actual dollars that you're making is more, right? So, but there's also another factor, and this is kind of the thing that made me make the video was, well, what is another reason the rich get richer? Like, let's just say that the amount of money that they have doesn't really matter, because if you're curious at all about investing or about, wealth building, I'm sure you've listened to many videos or clips or books where people say if you took it all away, I would make my money back, I could become wealthy again, right? Well, that comes from a place of, people that are wealthy. First off, most wealthy people are older, and by older I mean like in the later stages of their career. Their investments have had time to grow. They're hitting the strides of their career where they've been building a career for 20 years now, and so people really hit their strides in income, later on, and these are people that they didn't just acquire wealth. Really wealthy people had to be resourceful, and sure, do some people get lucky or win the lottery or get inheritance? Sure, but we're not talking about those people. We're talking about most of the people that are wealthy had to acquire it by building a business or, really just building a business or investing and waiting a long time, There's not many people out there that just, won it all at the casino, or as much as the world may make you think, there's so many people out there that just play blackjack and then became rich. Like, yeah, what you don't hear is about how small of a percentage of people that is. Or people that invested in Bitcoin when it was, $2. What you don't hear about is all the people that invested in this other stock that went to zero, They put their $10,000 instead of in Bitcoin, they put it in, Dogecoin. And then it went from, $1 to 10 cents. I don't know if that's true, but yeah, but the thing with most people that build their wealth, they become resourceful. They have a talent for something that they nurtured and grew and noticed and built off of. And those are people where just because you take away their money, that doesn't take away their mental, that doesn't take away their resourcefulness, that doesn't take away the things that they've learned over the years and their knowledge. And so, and these wealthy people, like, they have a level of dedication or a level of commitment or a level of curiosity or a level of hunger that succeeds the amount of money that they have in the bank. Does that make sense? Meaning, the amount of money a wealthy person has in the bank doesn't have, and I'm just speaking for very wealthy people. I'm saying, we look at them and we think, oh, how do you not have enough? Or why don't you just go sit on a beach somewhere? And that's a common thing you hear. Oh, if someone handed me $100 million, I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere. And it's like, yeah, but the people that build a life that earned them $100 million, those aren't people that are like satisfied by, just a monetary number. I'm sure there's some people that say, look, I want to get to this number and then I'm going to go, live somewhere and not talk to anybody. I'm sure those people exist. But, it's the mindset of the rich is why they get richer. It's not because they have more money. It's because of they have the mind of someone that got there. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to be too convoluted here, but what I'm saying is the more important thing as to, the people that succeed in building wealth for themselves and their family, if I'm not one of those people, but as I grow and as I learn, it seems really like at the end of the day, what it comes down to is these are people that won't be denied. They'll never quit. It's not about getting to a certain number and then going and retiring. It's about challenging yourself to be better next year than you were this year, right? It's about challenging yourself to grow, whether that be physically, mentally, or financially. And that's really the kicker. That's really the difference in my eyes between, those who succeed or those who give up. And that's really what it comes down to. It is you either succeed or give up. And that's the only way I think about it. I don't think about failure as an option, And I'd like to impart that on whoever's listening, that you can't fail if you don't quit. That's where I'm going with this is, there's a plan for you. And I think God wants great things from all of us. And it doesn't look the same for all of us. And I think, my goal is to squeeze the most juice I can out of this life here on earth and pray that I can do that while serving my purpose and sharing my story and helping others find Jesus. And not by pushing it on them or not by being, yelling at people or telling them they're bad if they don't follow or you're going to hell. Just being the regular guy that I am and just saying, look, this is how my life has been affected. This is how I use, or this is just how, I work with God in my life and my relationship and sharing that with you and hoping it can spark your own journey. And everybody's journey looks different. So I'm just grateful for whoever's listening. I'm grateful I have the opportunity to share thoughts with you guys. And I just pray I can spark some curiosity within you, some curiosity in your soul to not only grow as a person here on earth and grow financially and grow, mentally and physically, but I want you to grow spiritually. And I don't think that's mutually exclusive. I think all of those things are related. And, I'm grateful for this opportunity and thank you to whoever's listening. I might have got a little off topic and rambled on, but I always want to bring it back to the same place, and that's the faith and trying to spark interest in you guys. So thanks again for listening. I appreciate your time and have a blessed day.